we're going to walk through, so ARK funds, right? There's several ARK funds out there. They all hit on different target areas, but Cathie Wood has been adding SPACs to the portfolio. We get those daily emails that show, the buy and sell transactions within the funds, which does have a tendency to move some of these stocks higher. And the one thing I pointed out in a prior article was that even if you follow Cathie into some of these SPACs on that first purchase, you still end up positive, which may not be the case anymore with that dip that we took. But normally when she initiates a position, it could be a good time. Do your own due diligence, but she has a keen eye for growth. And we have over 400 SPACs out there. The fact that she's adding, 10 of these, those 10 may be the one to take a harder look at. So up first, we have DraftKings, so ticker DKNG. So DraftKings has been a recent purchase. It is currently in ARKW ETF. That's the ARK Innovation, position number 29. She owns 1.38 million shares worth $82 million, which represents 1.2%. And then DraftKings is also in ARKF, which is the fintech ETF from the company. They own 604.5 thousand, worth 37.6 million, or 1% of assets. So DraftKings is one of, a couple SPACs that is owned in one ETF, which to me is a huge bullish sign. Listened to the ARK webinar yesterday. They were out with some more comments on the future of sports betting. And then also, Cathie Wood, when she did an interview with Benzinga's own Jason Raznick, she highlighted DraftKings, as one of the stocks to talk about that day. The company is very bullish, and one of the reasons is the technology platform. So DraftKings, when they announced that merger, they also acquired SB Tech. SB Tech is the thing behind the thing. It's kind of like a GAN, right, where it powers the sports betting platform. So right now, DraftKings was using Kambi, which is a Swedish company, but later this year, they're going to move over to their own platform. So what does that mean? They control the technology. They control the back end. So when DraftKings had problems before the Super Bowl with people placing their bets, that was Kambi's fault. Now it will be on DraftKings, to power their own technology. And the other thing, what does that mean? It helps with their margins, right? They're not paying out to another company, for that back end support. They control it. So, I think DraftKings definitely, as we've said on the show before, has a bright future. It's one of the leaders in the sports betting market, and ARK, betting big on it going forward. Big holding in SPACs for Cathie Wood is Open. So ticker OPEN. This is Open Door, which was IPOB at Chamath Palihapitiya SPAC. So this one is also held in two different ETFs. So it is the number 16 position in ARKW, with 6.3 million shares worth $135 million, 1.9% of assets. And then it's also number 16 in ARKF, 4.1 million shares, $88.3 million, 2.3% of assets. I don't want to do a ton on Open Door because we just touched on that one yesterday or the day before, but right, buying and selling houses online and through that Open Door platform, is going to be a massive growth market going forward. ARK getting ahead of the game here, having a large stake in Open Door. We have Skills, SKLZ. So this is in the ARKW ETF. It's position 33. She owns 3.1 million shares. That's almost $80 million, 1.1% of assets. And the thing I'll note here with Skills was that they were just the recent attack of a short report. And even on that day when that short report came out, ARK was adding to its position, right? It didn't phase her, right? The long-term story of Skills, the ability to, do mobile gaming and, wager or bet against person to person. They also have that partnership with the NFL, which is coming later on. They have some strong investments, including several sports leagues. So keep an eye out on Skills. And this was one that was also owned in the Nerd ETF when we talked to Roundhill, and they were very bullish on it going forward as well. And then we have CMLF. This is SEMA4. So this is an ARKG, the ARK Genomics ETF. 4.2 million shares held, $66.9 million, 0.7% of assets. Huge area of growth according to ARK funds. It could be the next, revolutionary market. So we're seeing some of these SPACs that have ties to genomics. It add added to ARKG right away. So CMLF was one that got added right away, and you can see that spike up. Like, this thing took off on deal announcement, but then once it got added to the ARK funds, I mean, it really launched, which is that whole huge bar there, falling back down on the last week. So keep an eye out on this one, because again, ARK has been adding to this position, increasing its weighting. So, looks like they have a bull case going forward for CMLF. Then another one that's held in the ARK Genomics ETF is Butterfly Network. That's BFLY. This is one that they added very early on. 4 million shares, $70.9 million, 0.8% of assets. This is one I've talked about a lot, right? And I've been very bullish on it from the start. You have Bill Gates backing it. You have Bailey Gifford, a noted Tesla investor, backing it. It's a portable ultrasound on a chip. So instead of lanking around this, huge equipment, you have a portable ultrasound, which can get you, into more rooms in hospitals. You don't have to move stuff floor to floor. It can also get you into emerging markets, right? And help out some of these underdeveloped countries where they don't have the huge ultrasound, equipment. You can expand, into vet offices. You can expand to other areas that may not, make those huge purchases for the big ultrasounds. So keep an eye out on BFLY, a long-term favorite of mine. I believe it was on my top 10 list for 2021. Cathie Wood has been increasing the position in that former SPAC going forward. SPCE, so Virgin Galactic, number 26 position in ARKQ, which is the autonomous and robotic ETF, 1.7 million shares. That's $50.9 million, 1.6%. I do own shares of SPCE, and notable that ARK was actually buying on that dip last week when it was announced that Chamath had sold out his personal stake. We'll get to it later, but that upcoming space ETF from ARK, I think SPCE is worth watching for the possible addition there as well, because the Fed already in an ARK fund, I think sets the company up well to be a prominent position in that ARK space ETF. Also in ARKQ, we have EXPC. So this is the Blade, right? The electric vertical takeoff and landing urban air taxi company. 2.6 million shares held, $30.4 million, 0.9% of assets. There's been several of these EVTOL companies going public via SPAC, and Cathie Wood has added a couple of them. So keep an eye out. AONE is the ticker. The company is One Inc. is the SPAC. They're taking Markforged public. So this is a 3D printing additive manufacturing company in ARKQ. 1.4 million shares owned. That's $17 million, 0.5% of assets. And, I pointed this one out when the deal was announced, and then also that next day. Cathie Wood added this, on the day of the announcement. And she has added to that position several times. This one has huge customer base, right? Ford, General Motors, Tesla, Lockheed Martin, I believe, Boeing, across several industries. They're able to print, different materials and really cut down on those manufacturing costs. So keep an eye out on AONE. And then we have Archer, so that's ACIC. Similar to Blade, it is a electric vertical takeoff and landing company. The number 43 position in ARKQ, 1.4 million shares, $15.4 million, 0.5% of assets. We had one of the co-founders of Archer on the show not too long, talking about, the urban air mobility and also the, Uber of the skies market. ARK has invested in both Blade and Archer for exposure to that EVTOL market. And then we have Desktop Metal. So Desktop Metal, ticker DM, is the one that kind of gets forgotten because it's in the 3D printing ETF, which is owned by ARK, but it's not, one of the main ones that ARK talks about all the time, or even, mentioned like right on the website. So the ticker is PRNT for that ETF, but Desktop Metal, ticker DM, does have a position in there. So keep an eye out on this one. DM and AONE, very similar, but they also have some differences, especially when it comes to valuation.